for men and women. And she usually had most all of the teachers would stay there because you had a room, you could get a room, and then you had 3 meals a day. And so she was always looking after the ladies, and the parents of the teachers always knew that they were safe because she didn't allow any drinking and all this other good stuff. So she was a quite outstanding woman in town. She was very outspoken, and if she thought you needed some advice about something, she'd just call you up and tell you what it was you needed to do and what it was you didn't need to do. And so she was quite a lady, and I thought a lot of Miss Stapleton. She had 2 daughters, Ruth and Anne, and Anne was quite a pianist. She was a beautiful musician and could just play most anything, anywhere, anytime.
Wow.
And so she was invited to play all over town. But Miss Stapleton was quite a lady, and I thought a lot of Miss Stapleton. I think everyone in town did.
Probably
they
so.
They were very respectful of her. And the other family lady that I think about is Mrs. Conover. She was married to Mr. W.P. Ward. And Mr. Ward, as you know, wrote the history of Coffee County. And Mrs. Conover was from a Spanish family, a very wealthy Spanish family. And they were given land by the King of Spain, and they had holdings in St. Augustine. And they were some of the first family to build in St. Augustine, Florida.
I didn't know
and
that.
So she was quite well known, her family was well known, and they were very careful about their daughters. The Spanish were, especially those wealthy, well-to-do Spanish families. And so she was sent to a convent in Fernandina Beach, and that's where she was going to school. And her family came on the train and stopped by Pearson, Georgia, to visit some cousins that they had over there. And Mr. W.P. Ward was boarding with those cousins. And so he met the daughter, Annie, and was just taken by her. She was so beautiful and so talented and so on. So then he had the problem of how in the world were they going to be able to court each other because she was in a convent and she could not receive letters unless the sisters read everything that came in. So he went to Fernandina, and when the ladies from the convent were taken for a walk on the beach by their teachers, by the sisters, then he would be somewhere near the beach, and she would take her little parasol and write in the sand a message to it. And she could slip out and see him, and she would write the message about where to meet him and also about what time. And so he would come along nonchalantly and look down and see the message and then cover it up real good and write him a message back that he would be seeing her soon. And so that's how they courted, and when she finished school at Fernandina, they got married. I don't think the family was very happy, but they got married, and then they came on to Douglas, and as you know, he wrote the history of Coffee County. And she was quite a beautiful woman, and she, her niece was Judy Canova. Most of the older people in our audience would probably know who Judy Canova was. She was a comedian on the Grand Ole Opera for years and years, and that was Mrs. Ward's niece. Then Mrs. Ward they had quite a family, and one of the family was Marie Ward. And Marie Ward was, they were all talented musically, and Marie Ward played the piano for the silent movies at the Rivoli Theater. So when she sat down below the stage, and she could look up like this and play the piano, and when the cowboys were running, she would play that music about the cowboys running in the And then whenever it would get to the romantic part, she'd slow down and go into the romance music and so on.
I love
So
it.
it was beautiful what she could do with that piano and that silent movie that went on. And so Marie was quite a person. I don't know whether you wouldn't remember where the Revolution
I do.
Parade was. Do you remember?
It
where
wasn't. It wasn't open, but I remember where the building was.
Yes, right across from the Stapleton boarding house, right. So she had several other children who were quite musical and who succeeded in the things that they did, and they had some that were a couple who were also lawyers, like Mr. Ward was, and he worked with the courthouse. And I don't think he was ever a judge. He was had another position, but he was called judge.
Yes.
And I can remember that every day at noon, he had this cane and he walked home for his dinner every day at noon, because dinner was at noon, it wasn't lunch. And then he would walk back and complete his time. And everyone said that he wrote one of the best histories that was written. At that time, they were asking someone in each county to write the history of their county. And he wrote one of the best histories that was written. And we are so lucky to have that.
To have that information.
Yes. And that's my three people I was going to tell you about.
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it so much. And I won't see you in April, but we'll do it in May.
All right. Good.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. I appreciate everybody watching today. I hope you enjoyed our show. Just a few reminders from the Historical Society and the museum. Remember, Coffee Chronicles is on 4 times a day at WDMG. Please give a listen to our little snippets of Coffee County history. Historical Society meets again on the 14th of March at 9 a.m. at the museum. We will be closed the first weekend in April. This is so that our volunteers can have their spring holidays. Our next exhibit will open April the 14th, and the name of it is Coffee County Centennial Remembered. Once again, the Rogers Studio has come forth with some wonderful shots, and Tom Johnson has done a wonderful job with those shots and getting them ready for our museum and our exhibit, and we are so excited. I'm finding out a lot about the Centennial that I'd never known before, simply because I was only 4 years old when it happened. The next thing we have coming up, and we'll be starting this in April. I know everybody thinks I was lying about it, but the Coffee County Memory Project, the integration years, 66 to 72, we have a group coming in from New York the first week in April for a test run, and we hope to be up and going by the middle of April. And I'll be getting more information to you at our April meeting. But if you would like to participate, send us a message on our Facebook page, or our email is cchs@cityofdouglas.com, or drop by the museum or text us at 381-1135. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you next month.